Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. This time we're going to be looking at the second of the 5 intro packs from Gatecrash. So this is the blue-black Dimir Dementia pack. As always, it's got 60 card deck in it, 2 boosters and a couple of inserts which explain how to play the game and also how to play the deck. So let's open this up, have a look at the deck and also crack open the boosters and see what sort of pulls we've got. So there's our how to play guide and the how to play the deck guide, which is, as I pointed out in the previous unboxing, they're actually the same in all the packs because they actually show all 5 decks. So if we just look at focusing on the Dimir Dementia one, you can see it's, as I said, a blue-black deck. 12 islands, 13 swamps and a bit of fixing with the Dimir Guild Gate. And then towards the end of the video I'll take a quick look at how the deck can be altered basically to improve it. So first of all, let's have a look at the deck. So with the top card here we get a foil. There's always one foil in these intro decks. You can see the whole thing's foiled, and then we have the Dimir logo on the bottom. So this is a rare, it's Consuming Aberration, 3 blue-black. And for this one it gets its power and toughness from its ability, which is Consuming Aberration's power and toughness are each equal to the number of cards in your opponent's graveyards. Whenever you cast a spell, each opponent reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a land card, then puts those cards into his or her graveyard. So it'll be interesting to see in the deck what sort of other cards we've got which complement that and enable you to get opponents' cards into the graveyard. Notice it's saying cards, it's not one of these creatures you've seen before where it's often based on the number of creatures in the graveyard. So this is the number of cards in an opponent's graveyard. Okay, so here we go. So we have Jace's Phantasm, which so we go through the creatures first in these decks, the way the deck is packed. Although this is an uncommon, I'm just going to highlight something on here. You can see the ability on this is sort of fitting in with opponents' cards in the graveyard. So this particular card will get +4/+4, this particular creature, as long as an opponent has 10 or more cards in his or her graveyard. So there's a synergy going on with the Consuming Aberration, although it doesn't directly help the Consuming Aberration in that this card doesn't put creatures into the graveyard, but the Consuming Aberration's action will help with this card. Incursion Specialist, Welkin Turn, Gutter Skulk, and there are 3 of those. They're just a sort of vanilla zombie rat, which is a 2/2 for 1 and a black. White of Precinct 6. So another card that is in synergy with this opponents in the graveyard. and this one is for each creature card in your opponent's graveyard. So there's 2 of those. Dustmantled Guild Mage, and again abilities based around how much stuff is in an opponent's graveyard, or whenever something is put into an opponent's graveyard. Sage Road Denizen, so another one of these Denizen cycle creatures. Mortar Strider, Death Cult Rogue, 2 of those. Vidalcan Entrancer, so that's going to help put cards into a target player's graveyard. Balustrade Spy, and another one, and again helping with that sort of graveyard synergy. Mind-Eye Drake, another one, so when Mind-Eye Drake dies, target player puts the top 5 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. Dinrover Horror, two of those. Dimir Guildgate, so here's the blue-black fixing, and then we actually move on to the mana base. So that was 12 islands and 13 swamps, all Return to Ravnica artwork. These to get to the rest of the deck. So all we'll see in a moment is we'll start to see all the sort of non-creature support cards. So we've got Death's Approach, and there are 2 of those, and that will enchant a creature, and it gets -X, where X is a number of creature cards in its controller's graveyard. Paranoid Delusions forces a target player to put the top 3 cards of his or her library into his or her graveyard. And here we have the Cipher ability. So it says Cipher, then you may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. We've got a couple of Dimir key runes here, which are going to help get us blue or black mana, and it can also turn into a 2/2 blue and black horror artifact till end of turn. Last Thoughts, Midnight Recovery. So Last Thoughts has got card draw and Cipher on it, and Midnight Recovery also has Cipher on it. Grisly Spectacle, there's 2 of those, and here's a rare, Whispering Madness. So 2 blue-black. Each player discards his or her hand, then draws cards equal to the greatest number of cards a player discarded this way, and also has Cipher on it. So this is going to get all players to discard their hand, and of course that's going to help with any of the cards in the deck which interact with the graveyard in terms of pumping or adjusting their power toughness. Totally Lost, Rise from the Grave from M13. Shadow Slice also has Cipher on it. Coerced Confession, and that's it for the deck. So you can see that the mechanism in here in this particular deck is the Cipher mechanism, but obviously the main that's what I'm looking for. But the way this deck works is by trying to get cards in your cards into your opponent's graveyard, so that can then be exploited by all the cards in here which are affected in some way or complemented in some way by the number of either creatures or actual cards that are in your opponent's graveyard. So there you have the main deck. So what we're looking for now is anything in our packs in blue, black or colourless, which are going to be useful in this deck. So we're looking for maybe cipher stuff, anything that causes cards to go into your opponent's graveyard, those sort of things. Okay, so first up we have Smite, Slaughterhorn, Structural Collapse, and we have another Gutter Skull. We've got one of these already in the deck, so no special abilities on this one. Kingpin's Pet, Pit Fight, Balustrade Spy, which is also, I believe, in the deck. Guild Scorn Ward, Furious Resistance, Riot Gear. So we have a piece of equipment here. Quick creature gets +1/+2, and it's 2 to equip and it's 2 to cast. Arrows of Justice, Ground Assault. So we're moving on now to our uncommons. Boros Elite. Okay, so we have a Planeswalker. Excellent here. So this is a mythic rare, not surprisingly. 1 colourless red-green, 3 loyalty. Domri Raid Planeswalker. So +1 is look at the top card of your library. If it's a creature card, you may reveal it and put it into your hand. -2 is target creature you control fights another target creature, and -7 you get an emblem with creatures you control have double strike, trample, hexproof and haste. So unfortunately we can't play that in this deck. Planes and an advert for Is It League. Okay, so that's a pretty good booster. We've got basically 3 cards which we could use in the deck. Whether or not they would be useful in the deck is another matter. These cards, as they're already in the deck, would just basically increase our probability of drawing them if we put them in place of something else. That one's a vanilla, so it doesn't really complement the actual mechanisms in the deck or the way the deck plays in any way. This one does, because this puts cards into an opponent's graveyard, or puts cards, should I say, into a target player's graveyard. Okay, second booster. Hands of Binding, I think that is, yep. Massive Raid, Night Watch, Contaminated Ground, Hydroform, Ruination Worm, Act of Treason, another Balustrade Spy, Shielded Passage, Riot Gear, so we've got another one of those, Coerced Confession, that's a blue-black, Tower Defense, White of Precinct 6, which is also already in our deck, a Boros Reckoner, so this is our rare, and we pulled one of these I think yesterday. So this is a 3/3 for red, white, red, white, red, white. Whenever Boros Reckoner is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to target creature or player. And for red or white, Boros Reckoner gains first strike until end of turn. island, and another advert. So here, again, what we've got is a number of cards which are actually already in the deck. So Coerce Confession. Target player puts the top 4 cards of his or her library into his or her core graveyard. So that would complement the deck. We've got a bit of equipment there. The white of Precinct 6 we could use to up our complement if we wanted to in the deck, and again that interacts in some way with creature cards in opponent's graveyard. We've got Balustrade Spy, which will put target player's cards into the graveyard, and then we've got Contaminated Ground, which will enchant a land and make it a swamp, and whenever that enchanted land becomes tapped, its controller loses 2 life. So there we have the Dimir Dementia along with the boosters that were in it. Some pretty good pulls in that. I'm pleased about the Planeswalker in particular. And just a quick note about changing the deck around. So in the instructions here it says it would benefit greatly from a sparsely populated battlefield. So cards like Mutilate would be good. And as the deck tends to have only a couple of creatures on the battlefield at a time, you'll be in a better position to recover and take advantage. And things like Undercity Plague. If you're going to cast the same spell every turn, one that deprives your opponent of life, cards in hand and permanents is a great way to go because of the whole way this deck works. Okay, thanks for watching.